Kunle and Tunde were born 2 houses apart in Makako, where the lagoon lapped against wooden stilts and life smelled of smoke, salt, and fried plantain. They chased kites made from old newspapers, raced along narrow planks, and learned to dodge danfo mirrors that kissed the edges of the road. When rain hammered the zinc roofs, they counted seconds between lightning and thunder and swore that one day they would hear applause instead. "One day, we'll break out," Tunde would say, chin raised toward the third mainland bridge. Kunle would smile and mark another sum in the sand with a stick. Even as boys, they carried different maps inside. Kunle believed slow fires cook sweet soup. Tunde believed fires were for leaping over. Their mothers sold fish at Oyingbo and Balagan, hands quick, faces fierce, laughter louder than generators. In that noise, both boys learned the economy of Lagos: pay attention, or pay with your pocket. At night, Kunle did sums by candle, steady and careful. Tunde clipped photos of men beside gleaming cars, tapping the images like prayer points. They were good boys, neighbors teased, but Lagos pressed on each differently. Where Kunle saw bridges to build, Tunde saw shortcuts through the crowd. Where Kunle reached, Tunde reached. And every child knows, the city rewards both, until it does not. Secondary school brought uniforms, chalk dust, and the slow crawl of danfo buses through Ojalegba. The two sat by the window, sharing gala and stories. Kunle loved technical drawing and built models from cardboard, sketching tiny overpasses to unknot traffic. Tunde preferred business studies and the language of money, rolling words like arbitrage and capital in his mouth with a sweet taste. He flipped small items in school: phone cases, chargers, a stash of mint gum, and watched coins become notes. Kunle nodded at the hustle, then returned to his ruler, the soft rasp of pencil against paper a kind of comfort. When Nipa blinked, Kunle found a way to study. When a teacher mocked his accent, he swallowed pride and improved. When Tunde failed a test, he laughed, charmed the invigilator, and promised to do better. Both passed WAEC, but with different shades of sweat. Kunle through steady grind, Tunde through last-minute miracles. Their principal shook their hands and warned them gently. "The city is a mirror," he said. "It reflects what you bring to it." Tunde winked at Kunle after. "Then I'll bring gold." Kunle replied softly, "I'll bring tools." Yaba was waking up like a hive, and Kunle fell in love with the hum. He got an internship fixing old laptops at a shop near Tejuosho, learning to respect screws and circuit boards. He saved from tiny stipends, taking online courses at night, eyes gritty but bright. Tunde, meanwhile, found an older cousin in Lekki who spoke of fast turns, crypto, forex, sports betting, opportunities. The cousin wore cologne like a statement and had a smile that never reached his eyes. Tunde moved in, chasing charts until dawn painted the lagoon pewter. He said gains were near, just a little push. On Sundays, Kunle still visited his mother and brought suya wrapped in newspaper. He talked about a logistics app he wanted to build, something small that could help market women schedule bike pickups when roads flooded. His mother squeezed his shoulder. "Plant slowly, my son. The ground hears." Across town, Tunde stood on a balcony, city lights blinking like slot machines. He promised his cousin he would double the family's small savings by Christmas. The cousin laughed. "Lagos loves bold boys," he said. "The ocean rewards swimmers who don't blink." Tunde blinked anyway, because the wind off the Atlantic was cold. Luck, that flirty Lagos spirit, kissed Tunde one Friday night. A surprising crypto pump lifted his modest stake to 3 times its size. His cousin clapped him on the back and poured Hennessy into heavy glasses. "You see," the cousin shouted over Afro beats. "You were born for this." Tunde believed it because the numbers said so, and numbers don't lie, until they tell half-truths. He sent Kunle a photo of the green charts. "Bro, we're flying." Kunle replied with a smiling emoji and an invitation to test the prototype of his app, called Mile 2 Go. Tunde said later, after one more trade. With the small profit, Tunde bought a phone for his mother and repainted their Makako room white. The neighbors blessed him with long prayers, the kind that roll like waves. He basked in it, warm and certain. Kunle visited and nodded, happy for his friend but wary of the speed. "Come and see what we're building in Yaba," he said. "It's not sexy yet, but it helps people. Tunde hugged him and promised. Then he returned to the glowing screen, the chart like a heartbeat seducing him to lean closer. He did. He told himself he would take Kunle to lunch soon and ask about the code, about price, about patience. He wasn't ready yet, but he wanted to learn why slow wins felt cleaner. Kunle's app wasn't pretty, but women in Balagan liked it. Instead of standing ankle-deep in floodwater at closing time, they could tap a button and a rider would appear. It wasn't magic, it was patience stitched with code. He partnered with two Okada men who had switched to dispatch bikes after the band drama, men whose eyes knew every shortcut in Soyulir and Mushin. They shook hands in a buka over smoky jollof. No big talk. Just clear promises and small targets. Each delivery was a thread. By month's end they had a small cloth that could cover rent. The first week the app didn't crash. Kunle allowed himself a soft grin. He texted Tunde again. "Come see. I need your sales mouth." Tunde skimmed the message during a losing streak and muttered, "Tomorrow." The market dipped, and he threw good money after bad, chasing the first high. He started borrowing, telling himself it was temporary. His cousin encouraged him to scale, that Lagos word that can be prayer or curse. Meanwhile, Kunle hired a uni student part-time to manage calls and taught her to speak calmly when traffic grew wild. At night, Kunle drafted a one-page plan in clear Yoruba and English, so every rider and seller could understand goals without guessing. He taped it to the wall where everyone could touch it and nod. Lekki looked like the future at night and like bills in the morning. Tunde learned this when the rent reminders began and the cousin's smile thinned. "You said the move was sure," the cousin said, checking his watch. "We're not running a charity." Pride made Tunde stand taller. He doubled down again, whispering the names of coins like hymns. Losses came politely at first, then with teeth. He stopped picking calls from Makako because his mother would hear the worry in his voice. He told himself he was protecting her. He was hiding. One evening, after a red day, he took the long drive along Ozumbambadiwe to clear his head. At the toll plaza, rain started, gentle, then hard, drumming the roof like an old song. He remembered the lagoon and boys on planks. He remembered Kunle's small dreams that looked sturdier than his own great ones. He almost turned back. Then a message from a telegram group pinged, 100% sure trade tonight. He gripped the wheel, wiped his face, and drove toward the glow again. Lagos wasn't finished teaching him. He promised himself that one day he would earn back trust the hard way, by showing up, by paying back, by keeping his mouth small and his hands busy. Kunle moved out of Makako to a small place in Yaba, a room with a lean balcony that faced a bread seller every morning. He tracked metrics with a stubborn joy, fewer cancelled trips, more repeat customers, faster pickup time after rain. He met with a small restaurant in Onairu and promised them lunch deliveries that arrived hot. He didn't underprice. He explained value with stories. When a rider fell sick, he delivered a parcel himself, sweating through traffic with a grin, because work done well can be a kind of prayer. He slept tired, a sweet kind of tired. His mother kept praying in Yoruba and English, throwing in Igbo for safety. She came to see the small office, a table, 2 chairs, 3 blinking phones, and laughed with delight. "From this little thing?" she asked. "From this," he answered, and felt taller. He hired one more rider and upgraded the server. On Sundays, he served at church, arranging chairs and greeting strangers with a genuine smile. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was building muscle no one could see. Suru was working like yeast, quiet but alive. While the noise in Lekki got hotter, Yaba kept baking bread. Tunde's cousin invited him to a pitch night in Victoria Island, the kind where bright slides and brighter teeth crowd the room. "Investors," the cousin whispered. "We'll woo them." Tunde wore a borrowed suit that fit his shoulders like a question. He flattered men with soft shoes and women with sharp eyes, promising returns that right now existed only in his mouth. An older man pulled him aside kindly. "Young man," he said, "how many times have you lost?" Tunde lied, and the man looked sad, because he had seen the lie before. Lagos keeps case files in human memory. After the event, the cousin scolded him for being too honest in one answer and not confident enough in another. Tunde nodded, cheeks burning, and swore to pull a miracle by month's end. That night he wired money from 3 different borrowed sources into an exchange account and watched numbers crawl. He kept the suit on as dawn arrived like a debt collector at the door. The city did not clap. The charts did not pity him. Somewhere in Yaba, Kunle caught first light on his balcony and thanked God for boring work that did exactly what it was told. Boring was saving him. Brilliance was bleeding Tunde dry. Kunle's phone rang at noon. It was Mama Tunde, breathless. "Kunle, Aboroam, please check on him," she said. "He is not picking." Kunle left a rider meeting and drove to Lekki, remembering the boy who could run on planks without falling. He found Tunde on the balcony, eyes like low batteries, apartment smelling of energy drinks and stale fear. For a few minutes they said nothing. Then Tunde's voice cracked. "I messed up, Kunle. I owe people." Kunle sat, back straight, and listened. He didn't lecture. He offered water and quiet. The city roared below them like a hungry thing. They spread papers on the table, loans, group chats, promises. It felt like trying to iron a shirt in a storm. Kunle did quick math and went even quieter. "We can make a plan," he said. "No magic. Just steps." Tunde rubbed his face. "I wanted it all now," he whispered. "I wanted you to be proud." Kunle's eyes softened. "I already am. You're still here." Outside, traffic thickened and horns began the evening chorus. Somewhere farther in the city, a dispatch rider sliced through the mess to deliver hot soup to an old woman, thanks to a small app that refused to rush. They came on a Wednesday afternoon, 2 men with expressions like concrete, and waited by the gate. "Oga Tunde," one said, removing sunglasses. "We are friends of your cousin." The word friends had a blade inside it. Tunde felt sweat break like rain. Kunle stepped forward. He didn't threaten. He asked for numbers, dates, account details. He took notes. The men were irritated by the lack of drama and the presence of a calm witness. 2 weeks, they said finally. No story. As they left, one glanced at Kunle as if memorizing him. Lagos remembers people who stand between debt and blood. That night, the cousins fought behind a closed door. Words flew: betrayal, greed, stupidity. Tunde packed a backpack, the suit still on a chair, all shine now gone. He followed Kunle to Yaba and slept on a thin mattress in the office. The hum of the servers was a lullaby. "You'll help me make deliveries," Kunle said in the morning, handing him a helmet. "Start with movement. We think clearer when we are useful." Tunde nodded and carried the first parcel like a fragile thing. The city did not change for him, but something inside him shifted a few degrees toward light. The road became Tunde's teacher. He learned the smell of a papa when rain met diesel. He learned to smile at hawkers who tapped the window with bottles of water and fresh plantain chips. He learned that when you say you're 5 minutes away in Lagos, it means 10, so keep quiet and deliver. Kunle had him note every delay and design tiny fixes. Better route choices after 4 p.m., smarter batching, a priority list for regulars who only paid cash. Each small win was a clean inhale. Each thank you from a customer was a stitch undoing a tear. At night, they ate beans and bread and updated spreadsheets. Tunde asked about investor decks and growth hacks. Kunle answered with customer stories and cost lines. "We'll scale," Kunle said, "but with good bones." Sometimes Tunde still lapsed into old hunger, eyes itching for flashing numbers. When that happened, Kunle handed him a stack of feedback forms from Balagan and asked which features mattered most to the women who carried Lagos on their backs. The question grounded him. He slept better in a room that smelled of laptops and rain. Rain in Lagos is not weather. It is a mood that can turn the day upside down. One Friday, the clouds broke wide and mile 12 flooded like a bad memory. Orders doubled. Riders stalled. Tunde took calls with a gentleness he didn't know he had, promising honesty instead of miracles. Kunle stood outside in a thin raincoat, directing bikes like a traffic conductor. When a rider's engine died near Oberland, Tunde ran a replacement battery through ankle-deep water, laughing at the madness. Something in him loosened, an old knot coming free. By evening, their hands were wrinkled from rain and their phones heavy with praise messages. A restaurant owner sent pepper soup in a cooler as thanks. Kunle raised a spoon and grinned. To slow fire, he said. Tunde added, to no shortcuts. They clinked plastic spoons like glasses. In Makako, Mama Tunde heard the rain on the roof and prayed for both boys, tears mixing with gratitude. In Lekki, the cousins stared at a silent trading screen and wondered why the house felt dimmer. The rain kept singing on zinc, stubborn and kind. They slept like men who had done honest work, the kind that leaves the body aching and the heart light. In the morning, they cleaned the floor, fixed 2 buckles, and started again without ceremony. Old contacts don't like to be ignored. Tunde's telegram chimed again and again. Men who liked his old swagger, women who missed the guy promising easy flips. One sent him a Shaw plug for a cross-border arbitrage that smelled like rot. He hovered over the link, heart beating the way it used to before a trade. Kunle saw the tension and didn't scold. He opened a whiteboard and wrote, "What problem does this solve for a Lagos mother at 6 p.m.? The question pulled Tunde away from the edge. He wrote ideas until the itch dulled. They tested a pilot around Soyulia, partnering with a church to use their courtyard for evening pickups. Children played tag between bikes as mothers collected parcels without standing in the road. The laughter felt like clean water. Afterward, Tunde scrolled his timeline and muted 3 old groups. He wrote a long apology to his mother and sent a small repayment, the first of many. She replied with one line, "I have you back." He read it twice and closed his eyes. The city was still loud, still hungry, but he could hear his own voice again. Kunle bought Tunde 2 shirts from a stall at Yaba Market. Plain, good fabric, cheap. "Wear this to the new client meeting," he said. "Let the work speak." They pitched a pharmacy chain in Ikeja on reliable last mile for elderly customers. Instead of fireworks, Kunle showed data, delivery times, failure rates, testimonials that sounded like real people. Tunde took questions with humility that surprised the manager. "What happens if rain traps your rider?" she asked. "We promise truth, not magic," he said. "You'll get updates. And options." The room softened. Trust grew like daylight. On the drive back, they hit the standstill near Maryland. Tunde watched a hawker balance a pyramid of eggs and thought about balance, about how it looks simple and isn't. "I used to think Lagos was a slot machine," he said. "Now it feels like a workshop." Kunle nodded. "It's both. The trick is choosing your side." The clouds were bruised but holding. The radio crackled with old high life. For once, Tunde wanted nothing from the city except the chance to keep showing up. That want was new, and it felt clean. News travels faster than bikes. The cousin scheme collapsed under its own glitter, a Ponzi painted in crypto colors. Investors stormed the Lekki apartment, neighbors recorded shaky videos, the men with concrete faces returned, this time with hard voices. Tunde heard before the news and sat very still, remembering the balcony nights. He called the cousin and got silence. He went anyway, found a room turned inside out, and a man who looked smaller without his grin. "I don't have it," the cousin said, eyes blank. "I don't have anything." The words made a hollow sound in the air. He gave the cousin Kunle's card and said, "Talk to him. He knows how to build plans." The cousin hesitated, then took it, shame and pride struggling in his eyes. Back in Yaba, Kunle listened again, drew timelines, suggested a debt settlement path that would hurt but heal. "No tricks," Kunle said. "You need witnesses and receipts." The cousin swallowed and nodded. Lagos will forgive a repentant hustler faster than a lying prince. Tunde walked out into the sun, light, harsh and honest. He felt sorrow, yes, but not the old panic. Shame can be a teacher when it stops shouting and starts whispering. Tunde listened to the whisper and let it push him toward the kind of courage that doesn't trend. An electrical fault sparked a small fire in the office one night, the kind that could have turned wicked if not caught early. Kunle woke to the smell, grabbed a fire extinguisher, and fought white foam into the dark corner. Tunde handed him buckets like a dancer's partner, quick, in rhythm. When the smoke thinned, they coughed and laughed and sat on the floor, streaked with soot. "We need better wiring," Kunle said. "And a spare server." Tunde nodded. already drafting a message to clients about a short outage. Honesty first, even here. Neighbors arrived with buckets and jokes. Someone brought bread and a kara. A mechanic from next door offered to check their bikes for free. The city can be rough, yes, but it also has hands. They fixed what they could, slept a little, and opened late with heads high. That week, a tech blogger wrote about Mile 2 Go as the small delivery company that tells the truth. New customers came not because of cheap prices but because of trust. Kunle didn't puff his chest. He ordered fire detectors and insurance. He told the team thank you like he meant it. At an SME fair in Victoria Island, Kunle pitched again, this time with better slides and the same honest voice. An older woman with silver braids and clear eyes waved him over. I used to sell fabrics in Balagan, she said. Talk to me like a market woman, not a spreadsheet. Kunle smiled and told her about Mr. Hassan's steamed rice going cold in traffic and how they fixed it with insulated boxes and a route tweak. The woman listened all the way to the end. I like sense more than swagger, she said. Send me a simple proposal. Tunde held his breath. They didn't rehearse grand promises. They sent neat documents and waited like farmers. 2 weeks later, the woman wired the money with a short note, use this to stay steady. They bought 2 more bikes, paid down small debts, and hired a rider trainer who had worked for a big firm. Kunle walked to church that Sunday and cried a little in the second row, not from fear this time but from relief. Tunde looked at the email again and again, amazed that patience could draw this kind of help. Success changes little things first. The office fridge held cold bottles of groundnut drink. The fans didn't groan. Riders wore reflective vests with Mile 2 Go printed bold. Kunle now slept 4 hours at night and took a power nap at noon. Tunde started a repayments calendar on the wall and crossed out each week with a neat line. Sometimes they took night rides together, just to feel the city's heartbeat without meetings and metrics. They would park by the water at Eco Atlantic, listen to the waves argue with the wall, and breathe like men who had been underwater and found air. On one of those nights, they saw a boy on a plank in Makako guiding a boat with a long pole, moving steady against wind and current. Tunde swallowed hard. That was us, he said. Still is, Kunle replied. We just learned where to push. They didn't post a thing about it. They didn't need applause. They needed a good night's sleep and fuel for morning. In a city that sells glitter in daylight and real grace at midnight, they were learning to buy the right thing. They didn't call themselves founders or thought leaders. They were delivery men who told the truth and came back the next day. That simple label calmed their nerves when pressure rose. Mama Tunde wrote a letter in careful English and sent it with hot moi moi. My sons, it began, because she claimed Kunle too. She thanked them for helping her repay a small debt she had hidden, praised God, and asked them to visit the church youth group to talk sense into stubborn ears. Tunde read it aloud, voice snagging on the word sons. He remembered the phone he had bought her with dirty profit and felt clean that this time the help came from honest sweat. Kunle pinned the letter to the wall. Small things can hold a room in place. They visited the youth group on Saturday. The hall smelled of dust and hope. Tunde told the truth without drama, how sweet greed tastes, how it poisons. Kunle talked about boredom as a tool, checklist as shield, small wins as building blocks. A boy with restless eyes asked for a quick tip to make money. Tunde smiled sadly. Quick tips are like bright mosquitoes, he said. They buzz and bite. After, they walked home under a sky trying to be blue again after rain. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real, and sometimes real is what saves you. The message came at 2:13 a.m., a former contact claiming to have inside access to a government procurement pipeline. Zero risk, triple return, the man wrote, attaching photos of official-looking seals. Tunde's old itch flared. He paced the small office, sweat prickling though the night was cool. He woke Kunle. Just hear me out, he said, voice fast. Kunle rubbed his eyes and asked 3 questions. Who is served? Who is harmed? What happens if it fails? Tunde answered slowly. By the 3rd answer he saw it, a door back to the same dark corridor. He blocked the contact. Morning brought 2 new contract emails, one from the pharmacy chain they had pitched and another from a caterer in Ilupiju. Clean work was loud enough. Tunde shook his head at himself and smiled. I am that boy on the plank, he said softly. I'll keep pushing. Kunle punched his shoulder. Gently, he said. They updated the week's plan, assigned riders, and checked tire pressure. The city woke grumpy and glittering, as usual. They met it with lists and prayer and tea. Simple weapons, but sharp when held daily. He turned off his data for an hour, brewed tea, and swept the office. The discipline felt small and strange, the opposite of fireworks, and yet it warmed him from inside out. A supermarket chain in Lekki wanted a pilot across 5 stores. It was the kind of contract that bends a company, either into shape or out of it. Kunle broke it into modules, route maps, buffer riders, real-time feedback lines. He rented a small container office near one store and slept there 2 nights to monitor rollout. Tunde handled staff training with the tenderness of someone who has been broken and stitched. He wrote scripts for tricky customers and taught riders to say, "I'm sorry," without blame when things slipped. The air around the team grew steady. The chain's director visited unannounced, arms folded, ready to scold, and left impressed. They signed a longer deal. Kunle took the team to Aya Iba for a small celebration. No champagne, just soft amala and deep laughter. Tunde stepped outside to breathe and found tears in his eyes that belonged to the old him, the one who wanted fireworks. He let the tears fall anyway. Sometimes peace doesn't roar, it hums like a well-tuned engine. The night air smelled of wood smoke and pepper. Lagos, for once, felt like a friend who kept his word. The cousin finally sat with his creditors in a cramped 6 office. Kunle mediated, steady as a metronome, placing a clear schedule on the table. You'll sell the car, Kunle said gently. You'll move to a smaller place. You'll pay X every month until the sea levels drop. The men with concrete faces didn't smile, but they nodded. Tunde watched and learned that mercy is not softness, it is structure with a heart. After the meeting, the cousin stood outside, eyes red. I wanted what you have, he told Tunde. I wanted the car and the calm. Come and work out of our office, Tunde said. Start with the phones. Learn to listen. The cousin flinched, pride sparking, then cooled. Okay, he whispered. Back in Yaba, he made tea and took calls and wrote down addresses without flair, and for the first time in a long time, slept without dreams of sirens. Lagos didn't change for him either. He changed for Lagos. That is harder. And better. Tunde paid another slice of his own debt and slept too. The city hummed. The sea breathed. Quiet progress sounded like a lullaby. A rider had an accident near town planning way, nothing fatal, but enough to shake everyone. Kunle reached the scene faster than the ambulance, called the rider's wife, and sat with him at the clinic until the X-ray came out clean. He suspended the route, paid the bills, and posted a clear update to clients. We're behind today, he wrote. We'll make it right. A troll on Twitter called them weak. Tunde almost replied with fire and then remembered the boy in the church hall with restless eyes. He wrote nothing. He chose to pick up the next parcel. The next morning, the rider returned with a bandage and a grin and insisted on doing office chores. Let me be useful, he said. They let him. The team tightened protocols, added reflective bands, and purchased 2 spare helmets. A week later, a customer sent a cake with "Thank you for telling the truth" piped in white. The frosting was too sweet, but the message tasted perfect. Lagos will still test you, floods, blackouts, slick mouths, but some days it will also send cake. You learn to receive both without losing your center. The company moved into a bigger space with a view of a small field where boys played football at dusk. There was a real conference table, a couch where tired riders could nap, and a map of Lagos with pins and string. Kunle hired an operations head so he could think ahead 2 quarters instead of 2 hours. Tunde planned community days in Makako and Soyulia, free deliveries for the elderly on the first Friday of every month. Their logo started showing up on lunch packs and medicine bags all over town. They wore clean shirts and easy smiles. On a morning when the air didn't smell like smoke, Kunle stood on the balcony and watched a pale sun rinse the roofs. He whispered thanks. Tunde joined him with 2 cups of tea. Remember the kites? Tunde asked. Made from newspapers. Kunle laughed softly. They flew because we ran, he said. Not because the paper was special. Down below, buses began their day-long argument with the road. Up here, two friends let silence say what words could spoil. They had suffered and healed. One had run toward illusion and found regret. The other had carried bricks and built a house for them both. Years later, when journalists called for interviews and awards arrived wrapped in careful ribbons, Kunle always told a simple story. "We are boys from the water," he said. "Lagos taught us to stand, then to serve." Tunde sat beside him, no longer hungry for cameras, steady in a way that made younger staff breathe easier. He ran mentorship circles for boys with the same itch he once had, showing them spreadsheets and scars, teaching patience with jokes that hid old tears. He visited his mother every week with groceries and listened when she prayed over him, grateful to be ordinary in the best way. Sometimes the two stood by Third Mainland Bridge and let the wind slap their faces. Traffic hummed like an old hymn. "What's the rule again?" Tunde would ask, grinning. Kunle answered as always, "Do the honest thing today. Do it again tomorrow." They didn't call it wisdom. They just lived it. The city still sparkled, still shouted, still tempted. But these men had learned to hear a quieter sound under the noise, the small tick of work done well, the sigh of a mother who can sleep, the whisper of a debt paid on time. They kept the rule taped above the door at eye level, so anyone who entered had to see it and decide if they could live by it, even on hard days when Lagos felt like a test. The end. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe for more stories.